They say that a person's true character isn't defined by what they do when the sun is shining and the world is watching. It is defined by what they do in the dark, when they are exhausted, when they are afraid, and when they have absolutely everything to lose. For Mark Sullivan, the darkness wasn't just a metaphor. It was his daily reality. It was the crushing weight of grief after losing his wife to an illness that drained their savings 2 years ago. It was the stack of unpaid medical bills that sat on his kitchen counter like a ticking time bomb. It was the look in his 6-year-old daughter's eyes when he had to tell her, yet again, that they couldn't afford the new school shoes she needed. Mark had become an expert at being invisible. He was the man you walked past without seeing. He was the guy stocking shelves at midnight, the guy driving a rusted sedan that sounded like it was coughing up its last breath. He was a father trying to build a castle out of sand while the tide was coming in, knowing it was only a matter of time before the waves took it all away. But on a rainy Tuesday night in November, under the harsh hum of a flickering street lamp, Mark Sullivan stopped being invisible. Before we step into that rainy parking lot and witness the moment that changed 2 lives forever, welcome to Kindness Valley. If you believe that one act of bravery can ripple out and change the world, and if you support ordinary people doing extraordinary things, please take a second to hit that like button. It helps us share these stories with the people who need them most. And don't forget to subscribe to join our family here in the Valley, where hope always finds a way home. It was nearly 10 o'clock at night. The rain was coming down in freezing sheets, the kind of weather that seeps into your bones and makes you ache. Mark had just finished a grueling double shift at the warehouse and had picked up his daughter, Chloe, from her grandmother's house. They had stopped for milk. It was a small thing, a gallon of milk. But for Mark, the $4.50 in his pocket was a calculated risk. If he bought the milk, he wouldn't have enough gas to get to work on Thursday. If he bought gas, Chloe would be eating dry cereal before school. He bought the milk. He always chose Chloe. They were walking back to his car in the deserted lot of the budget grocery store. Mark was holding the plastic bag in one hand and Chloe's small, warm hand in the other. He was physically destroyed. His work boots had a hole in the sole, letting the cold water soak his sock, and his back was screaming in pain. His mind was already drifting to the shut-off notice he'd received from the electric company that morning. He just wanted to go home. He just wanted to lock the door, turn up the heat for an hour, and pretend the world wasn't closing in on him. That is when he heard it. It wasn't a scream. It was quieter than that. It was the sound of a voice trembling so hard it could barely form words. A woman's voice, pleading. She was saying, "Please, just let me get to my car." Mark stopped. He tightened his grip on the grocery bag. His instinct, the survival instinct that had kept him going for 2 years, screamed at him to keep walking. His brain whispered that he had a child with him. It whispered that he had a record from a stupid bar fight 10 years ago and couldn't afford police involvement. It whispered that this wasn't his business. He looked straight ahead, his jaw clenched, and took a step toward his car. He was almost there. Just 10 more steps. He could buckle Chloe in, turn on the radio to drown out the noise, and drive away. He could disappear. But then he felt a tug on his hand. He looked down. Chloe had stopped. She was wearing her pink raincoat, the hood pulled up over her messy curls. Her eyes, wide and dark like her mother's, were fixed on something happening between 2 parked SUVs. She looked up at him, and in that moment, the rain seemed to stop. The noise of the traffic faded. There was only her face. She squeezed his hand and whispered 3 words that hit him harder than a punch. "Daddy." Please help her." The urgency in her voice cut through his fear. She wasn't looking at him like he was a tired warehouse worker. She was looking at him with terrifying, absolute trust. She didn't know he was broke. She didn't know he was afraid. She just knew he was her dad, and dads were supposed to fix things. If he walked away now, he would save himself a headache. But he would lose something much more valuable. He would lose the hero she thought he was. Mark let out a long, shaky breath. He unlocked his car door and looked at her. He used a voice she rarely heard, serious and commanding. He told her to get in the car, lock the doors, put her head down, and cover her ears. He made her promise not to open the door for anyone but him. He watched her scramble into the booster seat and waited until he heard the heavy click of the locks engaging. Only then did Mark turn around. He walked around the back of the SUV. There were two of them. They were younger than him, dressed in expensive suits that looked out of place in this run-down neighborhood. One was tall, leaning against the driver's side door of a small Honda, blocking it. The other was shorter, stocky, invading the personal space of a young woman who was pressed against the glass. She was clutching her keys to her chest like a shield. She couldn't have been more than 22. She looked absolutely terrified. Mark stepped into the pool of light from the street lamp. He didn't look like an action hero. He looked like a man in a wet work jacket who had been pushed too far. He called out to them. It wasn't a shout, just a flat, hard sound. The two men spun around. The tall one smirked, looking Mark up and down, taking in the worn-out clothes and the exhaustion etched into his face. He asked if Mark needed help, mocking him, saying this was a private conversation. Mark stepped closer. He said it didn't look private. He said she asked them to move, so they needed to move. The shorter man laughed, stepping away from the woman to face Mark. He tried to intimidate him, calling him an old man, telling him to go back to his car before he got hurt. Mark felt the familiar surge of adrenaline. It was a cold heat in his stomach. He wasn't a fighter, but he would take a beating if it meant those two didn't touch her. He pulled his phone from his pocket and held it up, the screen glowing in the rain. He lied. He told them he had already dialed 911, and his finger was hovering over the call button. He pointed to a light pole and told them the entire lot had cameras. It was a bluff. The cameras hadn't worked in years, but he sold it with his eyes. He told them to leave her alone. He told them to walk away. The tall man stepped forward, his face hardening. He told Mark he was making a big mistake. Mark didn't flinch, even though his knees felt like water. He asked them how harassing a woman on camera was going to look to their boss the next morning. He asked how it would look on the internet. The woman seized the moment. She shouted that she was recording too, holding up her own phone, her voice shaking but defiant. The air was thick with tension. Violence hung there, waiting to snap. Mark braced himself, but the tall man looked at Mark. Then at the woman, then at the flashing security light on the store. He sneered, spitting on the ground near Mark's boots. He muttered that she wasn't worth the trouble and signaled his friend to leave. They backed away, throwing insults as they went, getting into a sleek black sedan 3 rows over. Mark didn't move until their taillights disappeared onto the main road. Only then did Mark exhale. His hands started to shake violently. The adrenaline crash hit him like a physical blow. He turned to the woman. She was sliding down the side of her car, sobbing. He spoke gently, keeping his distance so he wouldn't scare her. He told her she was safe now. She looked up, mascara running down her cheeks, and thanked him. She said nobody else had stopped. She asked for his name. He told her it was just Mark. He didn't wait for praise. He turned and walked back to his car. When he opened the door, Chloe launched herself at him from the back seat, wrapping her little arms around his neck. She told him he saved her. Mark buried his face in her hair, smelling the strawberry shampoo he bought, even though it cost too much. He closed his eyes tight to stop his own tears. He whispered back that they saved her. Mark didn't sleep that night. He lay in his narrow bed, staring at the water stain on the ceiling. He was terrified. What if those men came back? What if they saw his license plate? What if he had put Chloe in danger? The next morning, the anxiety was worse. He dropped Chloe at school and drove to the warehouse. He kept his head down, working in silence, waiting for something bad to happen. That was the rule of his life. Whenever he did something good, punishment usually followed. At 2 in the afternoon, his supervisor, a man who enjoyed firing people, walked onto the floor and called Mark's name. He told him to go to the office immediately. Mark's heart stopped. He thought this was it. Maybe the guys from last night complained. Maybe they were powerful. Maybe he was getting fired. He wiped his greasy hands on his pants and walked the long, lonely walk to the glass-walled office. But when he opened the door, his supervisor wasn't sitting at the desk. Sitting there was a woman Mark had never seen before. She was elegant, dressed in a sharp navy blazer, with silver hair pulled back in a no-nonsense bun. But her eyes were kind. She stood up and introduced herself as Elena Vance. Mark blinked. Elena Vance was the CEO of Vance Logistics, the parent company that owned this warehouse and 50 others across the state. Why was the CEO here? Mark couldn't help himself. He blurted out asking if he was fired. The woman smiled and told him he definitely wasn't fired. She picked up a tablet from the desk and turned the screen toward him. It was a video, shaky, dark, filmed vertically from inside a car. It showed Mark standing in the rain, facing down 2 men in suits. It showed him protecting the woman. It showed him refusing to back down. Elena explained that the young woman he helped the night before was named Sarah. She was one of the company's top junior analysts. Sarah had recorded the encounter and sent it to the CEO that morning because she wanted to find the man who saved her. Mark stared at the screen. He looked small and tired in the video, but his voice rang out clear. "Leave her alone." He told the CEO he didn't do it for recognition. He told her that his daughter asked him to help. Elena nodded. She said Sarah had told her that too. She had heard the little girl's voice. Elena walked around the desk and leaned against it. She told Mark that she employed 4,000 people. She said she could hire people who can lift boxes, and she could hire people who can drive trucks. But she could not buy integrity. She could not buy the kind of courage it takes to stand between a predator and their prey when you have nothing to protect yourself. She slid a folder across the desk. Mark asked what it was. Elena told him they were opening a new regional safety and training division. She needed a director of operations. She needed someone who understood that safety isn't just about rules. It's about looking out for people. It's about not looking away. Mark opened the folder. His eyes scanned the paper. The salary figure made him dizzy. It was more money than he had made in the last 5 years combined. It included full medical insurance, dental, and a college fund matching program for dependents. Mark stammered. He told her he didn't have a degree. He told her he was just a warehouse worker. Elena corrected him firmly. She told him he was a father who taught his daughter that we protect the vulnerable. That was the only qualification she cared about that day. The rest, they would teach him. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out a smaller envelope. She said it was from Sarah, who wanted him to have it immediately. Mark opened the envelope. It was a personal check for $5,000. The memo line simply read, "For milk and fireworks." Elena smiled and said Sarah had heard him talking to his daughter in the parking lot before it happened, something about not being able to afford the good cereal. Tears finally spilled over Mark's cheeks. He didn't wipe them away this time. He stood there, in his dirty work clothes, and wept. He wept for the nights he went hungry, so Chloe could eat. He wept for the fear that had lived in his chest for 2 years. He wept because, finally, the tide was going out. Mark took the job, but the story doesn't end with a paycheck. 6 months later, Mark stood on a stage in a clean, pressed suit. He was speaking to a room full of new hires at Vance Logistics. In the front row, sitting next to Elena Vance, was Chloe. She was wearing a new dress and holding a brand new backpack. She swung her legs back and forth, beaming with pride. Mark looked at the crowd. He didn't talk about profits or efficiency. He told them that they are all tired. He told them that everyone is fighting battles nobody knows about. But the measure of a life isn't what you accumulate. It's who you defend when they can't defend themselves. He told them his daughter taught him that. She taught him that you don't need a cape to be a hero. You just need to listen. After the speech, as they walked to his new car, a safe, reliable SUV, Chloe grabbed his hand. She asked if they were rich now. Mark laughed, a deep, full sound that came from his belly. He stopped and knelt down on the sidewalk, ignoring the dirt on his suit pants. He looked into her eyes. He told her they had enough food. He told her they had a warm house, and they had each other. But then he told her they were rich before the money came. They were rich the moment she decided to be brave in that parking lot. Mark Sullivan's life changed because of a CEO, yes, but the CEO only found him because he listened to the voice of a child. He proved that even when you feel invisible, your actions leave a mark on the world. So, the next time you see someone in trouble, the next time you feel that tug in your gut telling you to walk away, because it's not your business. Remember, Mark. Remember, Chloe. Don't look away. Be the person who stops. Thank you for spending time with us in Kindness Valley. I want to hear from you in the comments below. Have you ever been in a situation where you had to choose between walking away and stepping in? Or has a stranger ever stepped in to save you? Type, "I will help" in the comments if you promise to be the kind of person who doesn't look away when it matters most. Please, share this video with your friends and family. You never know who is losing hope right now, and this story might be exactly what they need to keep going. Remember to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a story. Until next time, stay kind, stay brave, and keep looking out for each other.